When your child is melting down or blowing up emotionally, it could mean he or she is losing touch with the upstairs brain. Dr. Daniel Siegel is an expert in interpersonal neurobiology and the changing human brain. He is a Harvard-trained clinical professor of psychiatry at the UCLA School of Medicine, where he is on the faculty of the Center for Culture, Brain, and Development. He is also executive director of the Mindsight Institute. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Daniel Siegel to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I assume your brain is whole and your upstairs and your downstairs are coordinating.
I try the best I can.
Explain that to me.
Well, the idea...
Whole brain, the idea of whole brain.
Yes, the idea is that when people, parents or teachers or anybody learns about how the brain functions, you can make sure the different parts work well together. One way of dividing the parts up is there's an upstairs part and a downstairs part, and when you learn how they function differently, you can know, for example, when you've sort of reached the edge of your limit and you're starting to lose it, how to actually bring things back together. So it really helps as a parent, it helps as a teacher, it helps understand kids, and it helps them integrate, bring the two sides together, the upper and the lower side, the left and the right, bring them together so they work well.
Okay, so integrating the brain in a sense.
Integrating the brain.
How do you do that?
Well, here's the amazing thing. We know that how you focus your attention, where you drive your focus of attention, actually gets the brain to get active in those areas, and then it can actually change the structure of the brain.
The physical structure of the brain.
The physical structure of the brain can be changed by how you focus your mind.
How early does this begin?
Well, it probably begins before you're born, but it definitely begins
In the
after
womb?
in the womb, because you can do studies to show, and I did this with my kids when my wife was pregnant, that if you play certain songs to them or sing certain songs, they'll remember it after they're born. So the brain is remembering based on what it's hearing and experiencing, even before you're born. But after birth, experience helps shape the structure, the actual structure, the architecture of the brain.
Fascinating. So the pregnant moms who played Bach or Elvis to their babies. Well, when Elvis was around, we didn't do that.
Yes.
So let's say, played music to their babies, talked to their babies, rubbed their tummies, said to the baby, I can't wait till you're here. Daddy loves you, mommy loves you. That actually affected the fetal brain.
Well, we think so. We think so. And certainly the mood that's in a family, like if there's a family with a lot of stress and a child is experiencing, the tension in a family, there are studies that show that those early experiences kids have actually go forward into their life and even affect their medical health as adults. So we want to be kind of conscientious as parents to do the best we can to make sense of our own lives, to bring a kind of intentional way of parenting to our kids so that they can have the best shot at resilience in life.
And resilience is a big one. Resilience, compassion, energy, all of the above.
Yes. I mean, resilience can be described as, how do you face challenges in life? And do you stay clear-minded and really take a courageous approach to saying, something, I'm going to try that out? Or do you actually withdraw from challenges and get very upset or agitated or depressed and fearful?
Right. So for a child who lives in fear, afraid of change, how do you work with a child like that? Or an adult, for that matter?
Sure.
Terrified.
Terrified. So here are some ways where understanding the brain is helpful. In about 10 to 15% of us, when we're born, we have an extreme form of temperament called shyness. The formal term is behavioral inhibition, which means when you come up to something new, you get so much fear, you back off. And that's about 10 or 15% of the population. Now, for most of us, we all have a temperament, but we're in the mid-range and we can grow into any sort of person we can become. But if you're in this group, what research shows is that you will have this kind of reactivity in the right side of your brain where certain downstairs elements in the right side of the brain, we know exactly where it is, will pick up new things, get frightened, and make you withdraw. Now, studies also show that how that child is parented makes all the difference. And in a nutshell, here's how it goes. If you have a parent who respects your particular temperament, supports you with it, and then helps support you and learn that you can face your fears and try something new, like a birthday party, there's a bouncer, or loud noises, or going into movies or whatever, and they support you, you'll actually outgrow your shyness. But if you have parents who throw you in the deep end or who overprotect you, you'll remain anxious and fearful.
So you need a parent who values you, who acknowledges you. When my kids were teenagers, we took the Myers-Briggs test, a personality test. And it was Jungian, I know, but one of my daughters was the opposite of me, personality-wise. And it was so clear, once we took the test, that that is just who she is. And this is who I am. I'm noisy, she's quiet. Doesn't mean she's shy, she's just quieter. She's my shadow personality. And it was very cool.
How did you deal with it?
Just said, I don't have to make her talk.
You don't have to make her me.
I know,
Right.
and I'm driving her crazy trying to make her talk more.
See, that's the beautiful, beautiful thing. What you did was exactly what the research shows you should do, is you say, what are my expectations? Who is my kid actually?
Right.
And you let that resolve itself. So in the shy kid case, you say, I have a shy child. What I need to do is be supportive of who she is, not who I want her to be. And those children turn out great.
And those marriages turn out great, and it goes
Yes.
on.
And on and
It's
on.
true. If we could just totally accept somebody as who they are.
Yes.
You have what's called the healthy mind platter,
Yes.
like daily diet for a healthy mind.
Right.
Young or old?
Young or old, any age. What this is David Rock, a colleague of mine, and I created when the United States Department of Agriculture put out a new food plate. We put out for the first time a mind plate.
Great.
And what the Healthy Mind Platter is, it has 7 different daily mental activities that research shows help keep your brain not only growing well, but actually, as you mentioned earlier, integrated. They include things like sleeping well and connecting with other people on the planet, downtime, time to actually focus your mind. There's time for actually being playful. And then we have in there, you know, in a very important way, something called time in, which is something people usually don't do. And what it means is taking time to reflect inwardly. We now have very carefully conducted scientific research to show that if you take a few minutes a day to focus inwardly, let's say on your breath, or I have a wheel of awareness practice that we do, you can actually harness these integrated circuits of your brain that keep you focusing your attention well. They allow your memory to work well. They actually increase your ability to balance your emotions. They allow you to connect with other people empathically, with kindness, in a more productive kind of way. And overall, they actually improve your immune function, and they even activate a part of the brain that gets you to be resilient, where you approach things that are challenging.
And
All from science.
Are we born doing that, or do we learn it from our parents, our surroundings, our circumstance?
Yes and yes. In other words, some people have a temperament which kind of leans in that direction. Most of us, you know, get it from our parents. But even if we didn't get it from our parents, here's the amazing thing. You can change your brain throughout the lifespan. And these 7 daily mental habits can integrate the brain and keep the brain young no matter how old you are.
Do you have to believe it? Do you have to believe the answers within? Because you know how powerful thoughts are. Thoughts are real forces, and they're saying that's bunk.
You know, it's a really interesting question. I think you have to have the sense that what I'm doing is going to be helpful for me. You can say, I don't know if it's going to work, and that's fine. So you don't have to believe in the sense that you're hypnotizing yourself, but you do need to have enough dedication and intention to make it work.
So if you have a child who is essentially never quiet, busy, 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 you doubt they have ever gone inside. How do you help a child go inside?
Well,
a teenager, 10-year-old.
Yeah, so there are a number of programs I work with throughout the United States and even in Canada, where we are finding ways to bring this kind of program into schools. Mind Up is one example. At the Garrison Institute, we have programs to teach teachers. There's a program called Mindfulness Schools in California and Mindfulness Together. These are all various programs. And what we do is we find the age of the child really matters. So we've worked in preschools, in elementary schools, in middle schools, in high schools, even in colleges. I run a research center at UCLA where we do this in medical schools. And so what we want to do is tailor it to the particular age, just as you're pointing out, and the temperament of the person. So some people may really want to be on the move. So there's a walking kind of inward reflection. There's the standard yoga. Some people may be more interested in more contemplative things. So in the Christian tradition, for example, there's centering prayer. If you're really interested in just more a kind of deep overarching thing, we have this thing called the Wheel of Awareness that you can get from my website, where you learn to actually look at every aspect of the architecture of the mind and learn how to actually create this center of clarity and tranquility. And when people do it, it's a purely scientific program that you can do, just a few minutes a day, and they start feeling this clarity of mind. Anxiety decreases, fears begin to go away. People have even reported that chronic pain massively is improved. And how can this be? Well, it turns out that when you master the ability to take time in and focus your attention in a certain way, in this skilled kind of integrated way, you can totally transform what before was something that was a lot of suffering in your life. You can liberate yourself from it. And that's science proven. I'm just not making it up. It's not an opinion. It's actually proven in not only seeing what people come through with, but also studying their brains. So the great news is we're at this amazing moment now to empower parents, to empower teachers, to empower anyone working with children, teenagers, even with adults, to empower all of us, no matter the age. I've worked with people in their 90s, and you can take the focus of attention, say where are the areas of the brain that need to be strengthened, and actually, like a laser beam, kind of like a surgeon uses a scalpel to make her changes in the body, you can use your attention to actually model the parts of your brain that need to be bolstered up and strengthened. That we know from science.
Wayne Dyer was here last year, and he has been diagnosed with leukemia, and he said to me, I have leukemia, it doesn't have me. He also was an orphan, as you probably know or not, and when he went to the orphanage, it was a sad thing. He didn't have parents, but he said, the good thing about the orphanage is there's no parents here. So that's a good thing. Now this is they're just thoughts, but how do they impact what happens to the brain?
Sure. Well, the way that Wayne Dyer is demonstrating to you how to reframe a situation, is a beautiful example of empowerment. And what I mean by that is this. If something happens, I'm on a sports team and I'm not played, I'm on the bench, I'm trying to get into a certain college and I don't get in, I've been working hard at a job, but people didn't recognize my talents. All these things, you can get really depressed about any of them. Or you can reframe it and say, look, did I try the best I could? I think I did. Did the world not respond the way I wanted to? My expectation was not met, for sure. So I let go of my expectation. In other words, I don't hold on to my judgment and say, I should have been playing ball, I should have been into that college, I should have been given a raise at work. And instead, I find an inner strength. This is why time in is so important. I find the inner strength, and I'm no longer dependent on other people's responses. And I also can let go of my own judgments that say, I should have this or should have that. And then what happens is you say, well, I shouldn't have had leukemia. I shouldn't have leukemia.
Right.
Well, then leukemia's got you.
Exactly.
Right?
You say, I've got it.
I've got it by the tail, right?
I will fight it.
Yeah.
Or accept it. I'll do something.
That's all the difference. And he's beautifully teaching you. It's like the idea of the word sick. You can say, I've got, this virus that's making me have a rough throat.
Right.
You don't have to say, I'm sick. When your brain itself hears you say the phrase, I'm sick, it believes you.
Okay, so I am sad or I feel sad.
Or I have sadness.
I have sadness.
Instead of I am, because I am kind of defines who you are.
I am lonely or I feel lonely.
Right. Big difference.
Big difference. When we come back, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Dr. Daniel Siegel, our guest, he is a psychiatrist, teaches at UCLA, Harvard trained. We'll come back.